All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're tackling a massive topic, the Revolt of 1857. And we're going to zero in on that critical moment, the initial spark. Now, if you're prepping for exams like the UPSC, you already know how absolutely crucial understanding this event is for modern Indian history. So, here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at the backstory, that whole century of unrest simmering beneath the surface. Then, we'll get to the infamous cartridge that lit the fuse. From there, we'll see the first sparks of defiance, how that led to the inferno at Meerut. And finally, the official beginning of the revolt. You know, to really get what happened in 1857, we've actually got to rewind the clock, way back, a full 100 years earlier, in fact, because that's where the real foundations for this massive uprising were laid. And here's the thing you absolutely have to remember. The Battle of Plassey in 1757, that was a total game changer. The East India Company went from being just a group of traders to, well, rulers. And for the next 100 years, as they expanded their power, their policies created this deep, simmering resentment across the land. Now, you might think this only affected a few people, but no. This wasn't just about the soldiers or the princes. We're talking about pretty much everyone. From rulers of states who lost their power, to the sepoys in the company's own army, zamindars, peasants, traders, artisans, even religious leaders like pundits and malvis, they all felt the squeeze of company rule. Okay, so you've got 100 years of dry tender, all this discontent building up. All it needed was a single spark to set the whole thing ablaze. And that spark, it came from something pretty unexpected, a new piece of military gear. So the British bring in this brand new rifle, the pattern 1853 Enfield. The idea was to make things way more efficient, faster and deadlier than the old clunky muskets the Indian soldiers, the sepoys, were using. And right here, this is where everything goes wrong. Look at step 1. To load this new rifle, the standard procedure required the soldier to bite the top of the paper cartridge open with their teeth. Just keep that single action in your mind, biting the cartridge. So, why was biting a paper cartridge such a huge deal? Well, it all comes down to the grease. To keep the gunpowder dry, these paper cartridges were coated in grease. And the rumor that started spreading like wildfire was absolutely explosive. People believed, and had good reason to believe, that the grease was made from a mix of lard, which is pig fat, and tallow, which is cow fat. And you can just imagine the reaction. For Muslim sepoys, anything from a pig is haram. It's completely forbidden. For Hindu sepoys, the cow is sacred. So forcing them to put this grease in their mouths, this wasn't seen as an accident or a simple military order. It was seen as a direct, deliberate attack on their faith, on their very identity. So once that rumor is out, it just takes off. It spreads from one military station to the next, and pretty soon we start to see the first real, open acts of resistance breaking out. And things escalate fast. I mean, look at this timeline. In February 1857, an entire infantry unit at Burhanpur refuses the cartridges. The British response? Disband the whole regiment. Just a month later, March 29th, we have the famous incident with Mangal Pandey at Barrackpore. He attacks his officers. By April 8th, he's been executed, and he instantly becomes a martyr. The pressure is just building and building. So we've got these fires starting, right? But they're still kind of small, contained fires. The real explosion, the moment it all turns into a raging inferno, happens in one city, Meerut. Okay, so get this date in your head, April 24th, 1857. In the city of Meerut, 90 troopers of the 3rd Native Cavalry are lined up and ordered to perform the new firing drill using those very same cartridges. And what happens? Out of the 90 men ordered to do the drill, 85 of them refuse. 85. Think about that for a second. That's not just a handful of dissenters. That is a massive unified act of defiance right in the face of their commanding officers. So how did the British leadership react? They decided to make a terrifying example of them, and it was brutal. They didn't just throw them in jail. They publicly humiliated them, stripped them of their uniforms, put them in iron shackles, and sentenced them to 10 years of hard labor, all in front of their horrified comrades. You see, the British thought the show of force would scare everyone into submission. It did the exact opposite. It was the absolute final straw. That public humiliation became the catalyst, and the very next day, the dam broke. And this is the date that goes down in history. May 10th, 1857. This is it. The Sepoys and Meerut just erupt. They storm the jail, they free their 85 comrades, they turn on their European officers, and then, and this is the most critical part, they begin their march to the old Mughal capital, Delhi. Okay, so this brings up a really important analytical question, the kind of thing you really need to chew on. We saw defiance happening as early as February at Burhanpur. So why do all the history books say the Great Revolt began on May 10th in Meerut? Why is that the date we remember? And the answer is all about the difference between a protest and a full-blown revolution. See, those earlier acts, they were acts of dissent. We will not use these cartridges. But what happened at Meerut was on a whole other level. It wasn't just a refusal anymore. It was an organized, violent uprising that completely shattered the British chain of command. And most importantly, it now had a clear political objective: march to Delhi, find the Mughal emperor, and challenge British rule itself. That's the moment a series of mutinies transformed into a widespread revolt.